Is math racist? That is the question that we already know from your intonation about what you think about it.
Well, hold on. No, let's just set it up. This is what the USA Today, this is how the USA Today, they tweeted or they posted an actual story with that headline, Is Math Racist? This was the USA Today article. Should schools alter teaching methods? Okay. That's what their original story. And if you find the link, that's still what it is on the permanent URL. But then they got so much flack for it that they changed the actual headline to this. Now, here is the headline. Is math education racist? Debate rages over changes to how the U.S. teaches the subject.
Okay, so the actual methodology here that we're talking about is changing how you teach math from a more hands-on way rather than just paper and pencils. You can see from this picture, it's about giving students more manipulatables, right? So when
What's a manipulatable?
Well, look at what this child is doing right here. Like they have dots, right? They're trying to figure out, presumably, like how to divide things. And so they actually get like a graphic example of what that means. It means you get them up and you get them moving to introduce the concepts. For example, when my son was learning fractions, we used Lego bricks, right? Instead of Legos. We used Lego bricks to show him like percentages or fractions of certain things. So for instance, we had an 8 brick, which was just 2 by 2. And then we took the 4 by 2 brick and the 2 by 2, just the 2 brick. And I could show him like, this is a fraction of this. It's 1/4 of how many dots are here. That's really what it's talking about, is taking math and instead of just like making it concepts that you have to work out with paper and pencil.
Like this guy.
Right. Is getting them up and allowing them to understand hands-on what these concepts mean. The reason it was presented this way in this article is because a lot of times the way that math is taught on pencil and paper, it takes a lot of grit to learn it because it's hard to sit there and just dump those concepts into your head if you're not manipulating anything. And most students of color and underprivileged students don't have fancy tutors to push it further into your head. They don't have the same teacher hour ratio, right? How much time they get with each teacher. They have larger classrooms. So it's not just math, though, that underprivileged students have a problem with, but they're trying to actually make it so that everyone is an apprentice in a classroom and students can help one another if they're actually up and moving around things to teach these concepts.
Well, this is a ridiculous headline, though. Is math racist? I mean, no, math can't be racist any more than this mug can be racist. Well, I mean, I guess if this mug...
Actually, that's not true.
If
Maybe
this
it
mug,
can be classist.
I mean, or is it just a commentary on our broken education system in the United States?
I'm gonna challenge you with that because actually, I think English math is racist, and I'm gonna tell you why. Why do you think that Chinese and Asian language speakers are better at math? Now, okay, I'm not going to give you an opportunity to give me a racist answer, so I'll just answer it for you. Is because they only have numbers 1 through 10, and then they don't actually give names to, say, 11, 12, 13, 14. Once they get past 10, 11 is actually 10 and 1. And I don't know how to count in Chinese, you guys. I just understand the concept that instead of that each number above 10 is like 20 and 1 is 21, is 20 and 2 is 22. And it's not a complicated, for instance, 4 is C and 7 is Qui. I'm sorry about my pronunciation. But for us, these are long words, 4 and 7, right? And so the concept of moving around these numbers in an Asian language is much, much easier. So if I asked you to subtract 2 and 2, which is 22, you understand the tens place and ones place a heck of a lot faster than me saying, Clayton, subtract 22 and 14. They can do it automatically faster because it's in. So I would say that Asian speaking languages, they've laid it out in an easier way to understand for the human brain. For instance, if you gave them a sequence of numbers like 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 7, we can't in our mind figure out how to sequence that. If I tell you to memorize it, it would take you a lot longer. If I told a Chinese speaker, they would get it right almost every time because of the way it's laid out. So inherently, the way that English people teach and learn math is harder. So math
that doesn't make
is
it
racist.
Yeah, but how is it racist? Racist implies
It's not necessarily racist, but it's harder for us.
it's just harder. Okay, well then you just said I'm going to tell you how it's racist. Well, you didn't tell us how it's
Well,
racist.
it's
You told us how
racially
harder.
disadvantaged because we are English speakers.
But that's not a race. English is not a race.
Okay, we are functionally disadvantaged as English speakers. I'm
Okay.
defending the fact that math is harder for English speaking people and we need more tools.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's better. It's not racist though. like math is wearing like a white hood and burning crosses in the yard in English in social studies front yard.
Okay.
Like that to me is like.
But the point that math is just logical and easy and accessible for everyone doesn't.
No, and I will say, look, I struggled with math. Math was not my greatest subject by a long shot. And so if there was a methodology that allowed me to learn math better than just like plopping a piece of paper in front of me and there's a chalkboard up there on the wall and that's how they're teaching me. And if there was manipulatables, there's things that we could use and describe it. And here's how we're moving these things around as
Yes.
they describe in this piece, like Minecraft and
Yeah.
being able to use these different things. I might have done so much better. Heck, if I had like an iPad that I could have done things with, I might have done so much better than just doing this on paper. I had to have a math tutor. My best friend, Ben, had to come over to my house and he got a perfect on his math SATs and he used to tutor me in math. Just so I could pass algebra. So I get it.
Well, most education favors the privileged. So, I mean, that's kind
that's
of
what I was saying.
given.
That's why I was saying I think it's more of a classist thing. Like I had a teacher, Mr. Johnson, I still remember him, and I was not going to pass algebra, and he helped me, and I still should not have passed, but I was a junior taking algebra with freshmen, and I just feel like it's that same thing that's a problem with the education system because I've not used algebra since I've graduated school. I've not had to do any of that stuff. And the thing is, like, we're putting all these kids in the same box. So I think that the system is inherently classist in a way that's like, why does everybody have to pass that? Why did I have to have that to even move on with my life?
Have you really not used any algebra? None?
I can't think of any algebra.
Like,
I used to say
when
the
I'm
same
on my
thing.
keyboard,
David.
I'm not like, why is
Because I used to want to do, I used to
B?
want to do stand-up comedy, right? So that's what I started doing when I was 16 years old, going to nightclubs and doing stand-up comedy, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. And at that age, and I used to say to my mom, like, Mom, I'm not ever going to use algebra. I do not need calculus. I'm telling you right now, I hate it. I'm going to be standing on a stage doing comedy or I'm never going to need this.
Don't ever tell that story to our kids.
I won't. But if my son comes to me and says, Dad, all I want to do is draw and paint and sketch. Daddy, am I ever going to need to use calculus? I will say to him, buddy, don't tell your mom this, but no, you're never going to use this. Unless you're
I'm
building
51
rockets.
years old.
I
I've only
do.
used limited English.
Yeah, I barely use English.
I really appreciate the idea that in the Western world, we give ourselves these labels like I'm good at math, I'm good at science, I'm good at reading, I'm good at writing. And in Asian countries, they don't do that. Either you're a good learner or you're not. It's, do you try hard? Are you learning to learn? It's not necessarily about succeeding in every subject. It's either you're a good learner or you're not. And they don't use language like that. And I'm really careful in my house. I hate it when someone says, I'm not a math person. We have a family member that always tries to say that around our kids. And I'm like, because I think these things matter. And it bothers me when people tell themselves these limiting beliefs.
What was that book that specifically talked about this issue where,
Brain Rules for Baby, I think it was.
Yeah, where
Give
children
me a
in
second.
America, like where we're like, oh, I'm not a math person. Then it gets you off the hook from ever. And it actually reinforces the fact that you're not a math person. When in fact, if you just had some, maybe better structure on your education, you'd be an excellent math person.
Well, I wish that they would have more, because I know that if I ended up being a really good musician and I wanted to play music, and had they pushed me in that direction more so than trying to force me into the things that I didn't want to do that made me not like being at school and not like participating because I felt stupid, if they would have pointed me into something that is a mathematical thing. Music is a mathematical thing. Rhythm is a mathematical thing. If they would have pointed me in that direction to give me a math that I could understand and comprehend, I think that would have been I think that would be better for kids if they would find those, outside of the box things to push kids into.
Yeah. Okay. Another great book worth reading about this is Mind in the Making by Ellen Galinsky. If you're interested in just ways to inspire your children to be better learners, that and Brain Rules for Baby, if you've got a really tiny one, it's worth talking about these differences, because if your child gives themselves these labels early, that I'm not a math person, and they decide that at 7 years old, 8 years old, they still have 10 years then to struggle with this subject. They have to. And you're setting them up at a disadvantage. So, but I understand the headline here is that some children are going to be disadvantaged because they don't have this hands-on learning opportunity.
Stephen in our chat says, my dad was a math genius. I could throw any numbers at him to solve, and he would come out with the answer in seconds. I did not inherit his math genius. Yeah. Remember Tanya says trigonometry. Remember trigonometry?
Mm-hmm. I loved all of that stuff.
I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I can say it, but I never did it.
I mean, I was a history, I loved history class. I loved social studies, and I loved English. When it came to math, I hated it. I just was not, you can't go around saying you like everything.
You don't have to like everything, but you should not say, I am not a math person. It means you were not given an opportunity to put all of your learning skills into learning this subject, right? That doesn't mean you're bad at it. I really reject that everybody can learn something with the right teacher.
What was the other day you said, well, I think you're right about that. Yeah. There was something the other day said, if I had 12 years, I would never be able to do this thing. What did you say?
Yes.
You used that exact language.
This is true. This was, I said if I had 1 year, I could never, which was, we came from my children's orchestra, my son's middle school and upper school orchestra concert. And I said, if you gave me a full year, I could never learn how to teach children to do this, because I don't play any instruments. I can't read music. And I don't know how to teach people how to, you're teaching each child a different instrument. That is something I'm saying I can't.
Yeah, the orchestra teacher is over here, let's bring up the sound over here. And over here, the girl starts, this over here.
That's called a band.
A band. Yeah, Natalie's like, if you gave me a year, I couldn't do that.
I couldn't. If you gave me 5 years, I could not.
That's your very own language that you're not supposed to do.
You're right.
If you had a year, I bet you could learn how to teach a group of kids how to play orchestra.
I'd have to learn every one of those instruments in a year.
Right.
And then learn how to teach
because you saw her, the teacher, she was she grabbed the violin from the one little girl and she tuned it right before. Then she went over and got the cello and tuned that. Then she went over to yes, she knows all of those instruments.
Yeah, I couldn't do it in a year.
Hey, that's
maybe
a challenge.
10.
That's a challenge. Should we do that, David? Have Natalie learn all of those instruments in a year.
Don't want to.
I think she should learn that. She should get that bass drum thing that goes on your back with the tambourine and the banjo,
okay.
The whole one-man band thing. And
learn
how to play all of that.
Where the guy walks down the street and he goes like this.
Dick Van Dyke?
Yeah. Yes, like Dick Van Dyke. From,
I will say, though.
It's a jolly holiday with Mary.
I play guitar and all that, and I taught myself how to play it. And so I never really learned theory or anything like that. And I had this kid's mom. She's like, I really would love my son to learn guitar. Could you teach him? I'm like, well, I'll try. I don't know, a lot about it, but I'll try. And he didn't. He had no rhythm. And so I could not teach him how to rhythmically play the strings. And so he was trying to understand rhythm and mathematically. He's like, how can I mathematically understand? Because he was a very brilliant kid. He ended up working for Lockheed or something on their spy systems or something. But I could not comprehend somebody that it was like the jerk. He could not hold rhythm at all. And I was like, I don't know how to teach somebody that doesn't have rhythm as a base level.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is that inherited? Is that something you learn?
I think it has to be.
I don't know about that.
I'm saying
for academics, you either you learn to learn or you don't learn to learn. And then some subjects you cannot apply your learning skills to because you don't have the right mentor. But I do not think that there is anybody who is predispositioned to be better at one subject and just terrible at another. I reject it. And I think the science is behind that too. But we tell ourselves that.
Dyslexia could kind of prove you right. You know, people with dyslexia can learn how to read in a very different way than we do.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.